Hello, I'm Rabbi Goldstein. I want to talk about Chanukah for a minute. A little message there's many messages of Chanukah, but one message of the holiday. Many people are familiar with the story that shows up in the Scholion of Megillat Tanit and also in the Babylonian Talmud. The reason we celebrate 8 nights of Hanukkah is because when the Hashmonaim finally got to the temple to rededicate it after defeating the Greeks, they found only one pach shem and only one small jar of oil in the signet ring of the high priest that was pure enough, that had the purity level to be able to use to light the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash. And of course, even though it only had 1 day's worth of oil, it lasted for 8 days. However, there's actually another version of the story that shows up in rabbinic literature. That's in the Psikta Rabbati. And there they say what happened is they got to the temple and they found 8 shipudim of barzel. There are 8 kind of iron stakes in the Beit HaMikdash, and they lit them in the courtyard. They stuck them in the ground, and they lit them, these 8 stakes. And because they found 8 stakes to light, that's why we have 8 nights of Hanukkah. So these two stories don't actually seem to correspond well with each other. So the question is, well, how do we reconcile this? So as many authorities have tried to do this over the years, but one in particular I want to point out is the Chatam Sofer. The Chatam Sofer, Moshe Sofer of Austria-Hungary in the early modern period, he explains it this way. He says that the first night, they got this oil in the signet ring, they lit it in the menorah internally to the Beit HaMikdash, where nobody except for if you were a high priest, or not a high priest, a priest could see, right? Only if you were a Kohen. But nobody else would know about it. And they noticed, something's weird. Maybe the oil wasn't burning down quite as much as you'd expect. You can maybe see the Beit Yosef on his, brings up this idea. And they said, we need to publicize this miracle. And so they took these iron stakes, and the first night they took 1 iron stake, they stuck it in the ground in the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash, where everybody could see it, and they lit it to inform people that something interesting was going on. The next night, of course, they kept blasting. They took a second stake, stuck it in the ground of the Beit HaMikdash, and lit it on fire. So the way that Chatam Sofer plays this out, I think, is pretty amazing, is this idea that Hanukkah didn't stay as just an internal thing, that only the Hasmoneans knew about, that only the priestly family knew was going on. It was something external, because after all, the whole point of Hanukkah wasn't to hunker down. These Jews, they probably could have hidden out somewhere and never fought the Greeks, and kind of kept Judaism as a small internal religion. But instead they said, no, we have a responsibility to the entire nation as well. And therefore, just as they fought for the entire nation, instead of hunkering down on their own, so too, when they actually saw this miracle, they didn't leave it as just an internal thing that only they knew about. They publicized it to the entire nation. So I think this reminds us that it's very easy on Hanukkah. We sit here in the winter, it's cold, it's very easy to hunker down on our own and, kind of isolate ourselves, especially this year, last year as well, in this time of plague. But Hanukkah is a reminder for us that we need to, even safely, of course, we need to find ways to reach out to other people, to not only feel responsibility to ourselves and our small nuclear family, but to all of Amcha, all the Jews out there, and the entire world as well. So with that, I wish everybody a Chag Chanukah Sameach.